Whether it's an event that you went to where someone was speaking, or whether it was a former mentor that you had, or someone that worked in your department that was over top of you, one of the things that drew you to listening to them is a character trait. I should say it's more than a trait. It's more of an exercise, a habit called confidence. And today I want to explain to you as an executive leader why confidence is what's going to make you connect to your audience and your team like never before. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference.
All right, so we've all been in situations where we have seen people who are tragically unconfident and they have a large platform. Whether it's we're watching a game show, my wife and I will occasionally watch, we used to, Wheel of Fortune, before we got rid of cable, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And one of the things that would be most notable to pay attention to isn't how smart the people were or how adept they were at answering the puzzles, but you can tell when they were really unconfident with being there. You can see it in their body language. You can see it in how they approached talking to the host. And when I started training people in speaking and getting connected to their audience, I realized that this was more important than just observing it on a game show. If you are not displaying the habit of confidence, it's going to be a barrier to entry for people to want to pay attention to you, because they're going to feel a little a desire to pull away from you because you're not really exhibiting something that's worth following for them. I know that sounds harsh and cruel, but you're coming here because you want straight talk. You're not coming here because you want me to tickle your ears. So I want to talk to you about how confidence isn't a personality trait. It's actually a habit, and how there's a connection between the way you're connecting with people and the way that you are coming across. So here's some things, a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, confidence makes it easier for people to pay attention to you. Confidence makes it easier for people to pay attention to you. I've referenced The Office already a couple 100,000 times in this podcast, and I will continually do it. And one of the things that makes The Office so entertaining is the secondhand embarrassment you get from watching Michael Scott or Dwight or even sometimes Jim be in a situation where you are cringing inwardly and you're thanking God that it's not a real life situation. Like, oh, I'm so glad that that's not real. But you know that a lot of what they have made fun of in that show is based on real situations that could happen in a real working environment. Well, that cringe factor is entertaining if you're watching it on a sitcom. It's not entertaining if you are the speaker. And people are feeling that when you speak because they want to pay attention to you, but people don't want to pay attention to someone who doesn't appear confident. They pay attention to things that appear stable. There were situations, I had a recent situation where we had a video in our church for our weekend services. And we filmed a video, and what happened on the video is my lips became out of sync with the message in the audio. So it was like watching one of those old 1950s Godzilla movies where the English was dubbed over. And one of the leaders in the church approached me on Sunday, and they said, I really liked your message, but I couldn't bear to listen to you because of the way it looked. And truer words were hardly spoken about paying attention. You have to be easy on the eyes, not attractive. Like, you don't have to be like this handsome person. That's not what I mean. But you have to be able to be paid attention to so that people don't cringe when they're watching you. Confidence removes cringe. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Write that down. Confidence removes cringe. People will pay attention to you. They're going to want to give you more attention. They're going to want to see where you're going. They're going to want to see what you're saying. And attention becomes commanded instead of pity attention, which you don't want. So if you're confident, it's going to make people hang on your words as opposed to dread watching you and praying that you finish. Okay? Next, when it comes to speaking to your team, confidence builds trust faster than credentials. Confidence builds trust faster than credentials. If you study people who got into situations where they are kind of in the room that's a little bigger than what they are, you're going to find that confidence is what got them in the room. There's a movie that I don't remember all of the details of the movie, but it was called The Pursuit of Happiness. And it's essentially about a homeless man and his son who is trying to become a stockbroker. And he's studying and he's doing everything on his own and he's living on the streets. And there's some really gritty moments in that movie where you see him in these unbelievable situations where he's trying to figure out how to find his way. Well, one of the things that's consistent about him is every time he goes into a interview, every time he is doing something at an internship that he's doing, he is wearing a suit. He's always trying to look his best. He comes across strong. But you wouldn't know, the people that are working with him wouldn't know that he's living in the restrooms of the buildings that he's trying to work in. And what happens is, at the end, there's this amazing emotional climax where he's finally offered his job that he has been wanting the whole movie, and he now sees the end of the light of the tunnel where he's going to be able to provide for his son, where he's going to be able to serve and do what he is meant to do, and it's amazing, but it all happened because of the confidence that he portrayed when he was doing it, not his credentials. It was his confidence. It was him coming in that suit and saying he could do this and studying and showing up. Confidence tells your team and your audience, I have been here before. Confidence tells them, I deserve to be here now. I am the one that is best equipped to handle being in this situation. It's confidence that does that. It's not your credentials. People aren't looking at your credentials when you're speaking. When you're speaking, people aren't sitting there and going, what kind of grade did he get in economics? Like, can he inform us on the data here? They're not going, I wonder what his last 10 performance reviews were. Were they above average or were they just standard or meets expectations? No, they're looking to see how you appear. And if you appear confident, you will establish trust quicker. The speed of trust with confidence appears a lot quicker. Now, I have to tell you a little bit of inside baseball here when it comes to how you think, because so much of this is mindset. But some of the reason why you don't have confidence in front of people is because you don't trust yourself. And so my question to you is, if you don't trust yourself, how do you expect those people to trust you? Do you really think they're going to trust you? Really? Like, do you think they're going to believe that you know the best for the company? Really? If you don't trust yourself, if you don't think you have enough credibility, if you don't think you deserve to be in that room, really? They're not going to trust you. So showing up in a more confident way, eye contact, knowing that you belong there, knowing that you have the chops to do the job is going to give you more than credentials. It's going to give you trust. All right? You have to guard that, but you can get it by showing up with confidence. In a similar vein, and not quite, it's not the same, but it's a little bit similar. Confidence signals capability without you speaking. Confidence signals capability. And I'm going to inverse this. We've all been on the bad side of someone that displays confidence without capability. And confidence without capability, in my opinion, is lack of integrity. But we've seen people that can talk a big game. Oh, I've done this. I know how to do this. I have a horror story from my boss who does a lot of real estate work. And he hired this guy. He came onto the job site and he was going to be the contractor. I can run jobs. I've run multi-million-dollar jobs. And, I can start tomorrow and I can do this. And the guy was so confident in the way that he talked to him. Well, after a day, my boss realized that this guy something was off. He showed up late. He wasn't answering his calls. He was really nasty with the other people working on the job. It only took a little bit of time for my boss to realize that this guy was a con artist. And literally, that con artist, they call them confidence men, right? There's that idea. This is where it comes from, where they have everything in terms of how they come across, but in reality, they don't have the competence. Well, if you're listening to this, you already are an achiever. You're listening to a podcast about how to get better as an executive, better as a leader. So I'm not trying to reach out to posers here. You already are that person. Now, confidence signals that capability that you already have. It signals that capability. And it's inferred in how you speak, not necessarily what you say and not how you do the job. So when you come across like you can handle pressure, like you're watching how you respond, your body language, you giving yourself some breathing room to be able to take your time to do a project, it signals that you have mastery over your job. It tells your team, it tells your audience, you can relax because you're in good hands. The message is leadership, right? It's not necessarily that you have all the answers, but that you are strong enough, confident enough to drive that ship, whatever direction it might be going in. And it helps when you show up this way. It's really important. I've told this story before on a personal side of how this worked for me when I was getting certified for a big program for Dale Carnegie in New York City. And I had been working on this program for 2 years. And it was the program that I really knew that I could do well at training. And I remember studying and I went through all of the prerequisites. And I was ready. I was ready for this. I was born ready for it. And I had everything ready. I was excited. I got there a night early. And I was walking home. I went to a movie and I was walking back to the hotel right near where the certification event was. And I realized I was going to be sick. I got a 24-hour stomach virus. I spent the whole entire first day of the seminar, the training seminar, in my hotel room. I was devastated. Here I was. I paid all this money to go to New York City. I was staying in the middle of the financial district and waiting to, I had a class that was scheduled that I was going to be helping facilitate 24 hours from that moment, and I wasn't even able to be into the certification. And one of my mentors, my Dale Carnegie mentor, I called them and I said, you won't believe what happened. I got sick. I didn't show up for the first one. They told me they don't know if I can go on. I'm going to have to come back a different time, and I didn't want to do that. And she said, here's what you're going to do. She said, you're going to get up tomorrow. You're going to facilitate the program, and you are going to not apologize for missing, not apologize for why you weren't there. Don't even say, it's nobody's business. Just get in there and show them what you can do. You just go in there and you own it. And I had all these plans of making jokes about being sick and, coming to New York City and getting sick. And I had all these plans. But the first moment that I got into the room, when they let me in the room, the facilitator was there. There was a gap. The person that was supposed to do the makeshift facilitation had to take a business call. And I had 5 minutes. I came in. He said, look, he goes, here's the bottom line. This was already all assigned. We were going to kind of put you in wherever we could. But if you can do this first session, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to prepare for it. I'm going to let you go. Are you willing to do this? I looked at him and I said, yes. I got up and I facilitated like never before. I pretended like I'd been there. I pretended like I'd known everybody. I got everybody up. I got everybody moving. And boom, it was like instantly I was like a fish put back into water. And that moment, facilitator, the guy that was in charge of my certification, he said, I knew you were going to pass in that moment. And that's all because that confidence signaled capability. Was I confident? Was I feeling confident? No. I had never felt worse in my life doing something public that I had studied for. But it was the idea that I knew that I had to get across that threshold, and confidence does it. That's the same thing that will happen to you. If you show people that you belong in that room, if you show your team that you belong there, people are going to implicitly trust you more. They're going to believe that you really do deserve to be the one that's taking charge, because you do. Confidence signals capability without saying a word. Okay? Next. And this is important. You have to make sure that when you are displaying confidence, it's not misread as dominance. Confidence and dominance, or confidence and cockiness. You want to make sure that confidence is more about you feeling capable and able to serve those people, not you feeling like those people are privileged to have you in the room. That's a big difference. So make sure when you're displaying confidence that you're doing so in a way that demonstrates that you're doing it in service to them. Remember, none of this matters if you're not serving others. It doesn't make a difference. I can't help you to speak better if you're thinking of yourself. I can't. That none of this matters if you're not focused on them. True confidence shows up as space for others. True confidence shows up as restraint. True confidence shows up as being okay with not everybody being okay with you. We talked about that a couple weeks ago with somebody not liking you, right? So confidence shows up in a way that is often not dominance. It's more or less just you being comfortable in your own skin. So you don't want to show up and be overly assertive and overly dominant. You want to show up and say, I'm in the room and I got this. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, this is kind of a refresh from what I've talked about for the last year of podcasts. But you might say, okay, well, I got it. I need this. Now give me a way to be confident. Well, just listen to the last 50 episodes or whatever. But I'm going to give you some quick pointers that will help you to appear more confident if right now you're struggling with confidence. All right. And look at other people and you'll see that the people that you think of as not confident, they struggle in these areas. So number one, slow down. Slow down. If you slow your pacing, you appear more confident. Almost always. Not if you're stammering and being quiet and you're freezing, like not Mitch McConnell, not like that. But if you take your time, if you really let people focus on what you're saying, it really, really transforms how you're being perceived when it comes to confidence. Next, finish the sentence. Finish the sentence. What does that mean? What happens with people that are unconfident is they speak in trailing off sentences. So you've been around people like this. For example, you say, oh, okay, today we're going to learn a little bit more about how to do this job better, and we're going to try to get better at this and see what we can get into here and do this. And then it gets faster and quieter as it completes. You want to finish whatever sentence where you know that the sentence ends cleanly. So don't trail off. Don't ramble, and for heaven's sakes, don't mutter. You want people to be able to hear and understand what it is that you're saying. All right, so finish your sentences. Next, before a key moment or a key point that you're trying to show your team or your audience, take a pause. Take a pause. So, this weekend, I'm speaking about how important it is to become a successful person instead of just succeeding at things, meaning become the type of person who is successful. And one of the points of my message is God is more interested in who you become than what you do. I'm going to reaffirm that over and over again. But when I say it, I'm going to say, now, for the people in the back, He is more interested in who you become than what you do. And I'm going to say that with pausing because it's so vital that they get that in their minds. But you have to be willing to pause in order for them to truly grasp what it is that you're saying. Now, the last thing, and this is something that you want to realize about practical ways to project that confidence, you want to speak in terms of conclusions and not in terms of disclaimers. So I'll give you an example. I said before, one of the biggest problems that leaders have if they're feeling unconfident is they apologize. Oh, I'm sorry, I was really messed up this week on preparing, and I hope this goes well, right? Instead, you want to frame what you're saying as a conclusion. All right, today we're going to get down to the bottom of how we handle our attendance slump. Tomorrow we are going to look at the way we deal with the staff turnover crisis. Even if you don't have the answer, it's you speaking in terms of a conclusion and not in terms of a disclaimer. Well, I'm going to try to take a stab at how we get our attendance back on track. Do you see the difference? Both mean the same. It's the way that you perceive, the way that people perceive you when you're speaking that way. So you want to speak in terms of conclusions and not in terms of disclaimers or apology. Now, I've given you all these things. This is a kind of a quick masterclass on confidence. But if you need my help, I'm here for you. podcast@samuellinton.com. I would love to work with your team. I would love to work with your groups and helping your team to become as confident as they appear when they're doing their jobs as they are when they're speaking. That's my goal. So I'd love to work with you in this new year. But thank you for joining us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. So in the meantime, shift your mindset, find your voice, change your world. We'll see you soon.